Okay, I think we're all set. There we are. Whew. Howdy, Xavier. Hello, Tyrone. Good to see you both in the chat right away. There we go. Wasn't I facing the other way? Whatever. Just in case. Wow, oh wow, so time actually does pass while you're just sitting there. Wait, no. Wait. Wait a second. I... I... I legit can't tell if that's a retexture or not. Time passed anywhere, including places stuck to certain times, like the Far Missoula. Yeah, I know about Far Missoula with time passing there, but I didn't mean in terms of, like, while you're, you know, at your checkpoint stuff and can adjust the time and stuff. I thought that maybe it might pause, but no, it doesn't. Good to know. It looks like it might, but it's super hard because it could also be lighting, and this is just the normal crystal one. Still, I can't believe you got snail slugs up here. Only pause when you do menu explanations. Oh. Oh. Ah, there you are. We're gonna go this way. There you are. They'll get here eventually. Again, there is something quite atmospheric about that. Alright, let's see if we can fix these chains. There we go. There we go. I don't know why chains do that, but okay. There we are. What a nice, relaxing. Man, this is finding the exact composition I want. Ain't gonna be easy. Yeah. We're gonna do something like this. Nice. Cool. Coolio. Also, I forgot there was a kiting guy among these folks. Legit forgot. Also, where's the, there they are. There's this asshole. Yep, cool. I know you mentioned there was one at the cliff face. Yeah, there's one at the cliff face. But I thought there were more, but I couldn't find him. So I was like, I guess it's just the one, and I was misremembering. But no, there is one. I just didn't realize it was at the, in the convoy. It should be around here, right? Yeah, over here. I want to trigger the man-eater woman, but yeah, around here. Yeah, there they are. There's our buddy, our pal, our friend. Oh my god, she's coming. Alright, let's get that ×5 speed. Let's also get higher LOD for the shot I want. Kaiden in the other faction would have been cooler with more diverse enemies, like a pikeman Kaiden, archer Kaiden with a longbow, Kaiden with a short. I suppose. I don't know. I kind of like them for like the cultural thing. Maybe they could have had some archers or something for at least a range variety, but I think they're awful. Don't call the Algris a man-eater, that's rude. Gomenasai. I did not realize I was being insulting to all the ogres out there. Sorry, Margaret. I swear, is there a time where this place isn't going through a blizzard? Guess I'll just have to rely on the trees. I would have liked a mini-boss version with more health. Maybe they thought of making him a mini-boss at one point, but then they kind of, like, gave up on it, because you're right, he does have a very diverse moveset. I definitely think I definitely am surprised that the Kaiden were utilized, like, basically only for Limgrave and then 2 for this area. That does surprise me. Oh my god, not you. What was it? Out of the pot and into the broiler? Uh-huh. Into the fire. Ah, that's the one. I wonder what item this guy had. Like, what'd this poor dude do? There we go. Having more mercenary faction with Cuckoo. The Cuckoo Knights are basically mercenaries. Having more minor faction running around, that should have been done. We have a lot of them though. We have Kaiden. We have, like you said, the Cuckoos more or less. We have the Fallen Hawk Company or whatever, the Company of the Fallen Hawk or whatever they're called, right? Like we have a good number of, like, you know, in it for ourselves type of idea. I think the bigger problem is that the Shattering is such an underwhelming conflict. As far as its, like, full history goes, like, it's treated as a lot more epic, and don't get me wrong, like, obviously it's very important, there's cool, like, the events itself are cool and stuff like that, right? But, you know, especially when you consider, like, the trailers and things, it feels like it's this big, long, epic battle, like, this true war among wars and things like that, and it's really not. Most of the incident, I don't even think really involves that much fighting. It's mostly all the factions playing politics while doing their own thing, and then when the actual fighting kind of breaks out and stuff. I mean, half of the battles aren't even actually over becoming Elden Lord. You know, you got Miquella's thing and Melania, and like, I think they could have done better. I think there was a missed opportunity. That's it, you nailed it. It seems like the 5 major battles happened, and then everyone just went, well, we tried. Yep, basically, right? And then everything becomes this drawn-out conflict. Like, Morgoth still... Like, it's one of those weird things where the Shattering is also treated as this thing where, like, it never really ended, but it's kind of considered as already over, too. So, like, you have Morgoth, like, in this protracted battle in Gelmir, so it's like, I mean, the Shattering's clearly still happening, at least over there in Leyndell. You have all the rebel forces of Godric, which are still around, right? And you still, like, hell, Morgoth hasn't even cleaned up the second battle of Leyndell yet. Like, that place is still a mess, right? And yet you have all these other events that are happening since the Shattering, like stuff with the Tarnish and things. So it feels like a lot of events and things are kind of just there because Miyazaki needs the storytelling to tell you about what happened in the past. It's one of those things where it's kind of like, is it really justifiable, though? Time to let the entire land waste away. At least I'll have my rotting pile of wealth that slowly becomes worthless. Yeah, exactly. I think that would have been an idea because there's cut content for a soldier set that the same iconography as the shield they all use. I think there was originally an idea of maybe having something where there was mercenary, at the very least like a standardized like generic soldier, and you'd have all the factions for it, like these that were like soldiers who were unaligned maybe, and maybe they took over small forts and stuff. But they basically gave up on that idea, probably because it would be like, you know, they'd all just basically be Limgrave soldiers. Which I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. But yeah, I definitely feel like the Shattering It's kind of just like another one of the many events. It's not like this big, like, critical thing. Like, I feel like, and keep in mind, I know for some people they would loop this in with the Shattering, but it's technically separate. America shattering the Elden Ring is a lot more important than the Shattering War that occurred, right? Especially considering most of the war is mostly, again, like I said, the factions playing politics trying to avoid war. Or Morgott trying to avoid the war. But yeah, I think that's the bigger problem. It's not this big, complex, actual, like, you know, protracted war with all the factions and they're scheming and doing all these things against each other and stuff. It really is quite simple. And it's one of those things where it's like, ah, yes, we have, Radahn, greatest demigod of the Shattering. And, like, Melania, the undefeated, and things like that. And it's like, again, I've talked about this before, but when I see, like, content creators like Smotown and stuff, like, talk about, how, oh, there must have been these great battles they were fighting and stuff, and then it culminated the big stuff, it's like, we don't actually have evidence for any of that. All the evidence would actually point against that. But I get why you're saying that, because if you don't, then it suddenly makes some of those titles kind of feel, less worthwhile than what you had in your mind, right? When you hear stuff like that, you always think, oh, big, epic, like, countless, like, examples of what they've done and things, right? But that's the presumed knowledge, right? You know, that's why you gotta be careful when you're doing eisegesis versus exegesis. You really, really don't want to be looking into the text, or in this case, you know, the environmental storytelling even, more than what's actually there. Probably something better represented in Martin's notes or something. Just in Transformer World, their storytelling style. Maybe, but again, that's a huge assumption. And it's, again, just not reflected in the actual game. Maybe there are more battles that we just don't know about. Things that aren't reflected in the environment or the text of the items. But without that, we only got what we're going for, and that's the story that Miyazaki was told. All we got is kind of like, it's like, oh yeah, it's cool, but you know, it's not like this big, epic conflict. You know? Yeah, that's cool. Morgott avoiding war is smart. He just needs to play defense and he can win. The others just seem to do a whole lot of nothing for no reason. Well, so like here's the again. I think for the most part it makes sense based on what we know, right? I'm just saying that the problem is the way things play out. It isn't as big, epic, or complicated like with all these like, you know, like when you hear about how you got like Melania, Mikola, Godric, Rykard, theoretically Morgott, and Radahn, and you have all these people who apparently were all involved in this whole council, and then everything fell apart, and it all started this big war. You're like, oh, you have all these factions, and they're fighting, and, you know, there's all these different territories, and it's this free-for-all, so, like, you know, you think something more like the Sengoku era or something, in terms of, like, the level of complexity, and, like, oh, I'm on your side now, but now I'm against you, and all these things, right? It's really not. It starts with Godefroy, where he kind of tries to start the Shattering, but sort of fails, right? So the Shattering starts off with a whimper, because Morgott stamps that out real quick. And then he replaces Godefroy with Godric, and then Godric then teams up with Radahn and does his own thing, right? So then so you have this kind of team-up thing, and they have the big battle at the second defense of Lingdale, right? But then Godric basically wusses out because Morgott pulls the market card and it looks like he might win. So he pulls out and leaves Radahn to fend for himself and retreats back to Stormvale, right? And then Radahn then retreats and does the same thing and retreats back to Redbane Castle, which is his territory, right? You're like, okay, so Radahn and Godric are both gonna like build up and like you know try to reconstitute their forces so they can re-strategize and all that and figure out how are we gonna go back and assault the capital, right? Like all that makes sense, right? So it makes sense why they aren't like, you know, immediately going back into the fighting, right? And Godric also loses forces in the midst of his retreat, so like he's kind of, you know, really not in a position to be fighting things out, so all that makes sense. I'm gonna go here for a second because I actually didn't explore the Dragon Barrow, so. But then you have after that, Melania coming through, and Melania's somehow she got past Morgoth and stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe Morgoth gave her a free pass or something, right? But basically, she, like, basically gets through, and she starts fighting her way through Liurnia, and then the Academy's all like, oh, mea culpa, like, because, again, the Liurnia is not even really part of the Civil War, right? Like, they're kind of doing their own thing, because of their own internal politics with the Carians and things, right? So, like, they're kind of, sort of, maybe part of the you know, it's kind of like talking about, like, the Spanish Civil War on why they stayed out of World War II or whatever it was, right? It's kind of the same idea here. So it's like, is it really something worth, like, considering part of the war in the history books, really? But anyway, point being is that you go all the way to, you have Melania fighting her way through, and then Godric decides, oh, I'm gonna go and beat Melania, so he fights her off, really. And then you have, you know, Godric getting his butt kicked, and then she goes off and fights Radahn and wins against Radahn. Well, you know, wins, quote-unquote, against Radahn. And then, because of those Scarlet Rot and all that stuff, the Redmanes are basically trying everything they can to try to keep the Scarlet, you know, hold the Scarlet Rot back and, you know, keep their territory, you know, purified and all that stuff. So it makes sense why they're basically out for the count, and the war is basically over, because the only one who's really kind of truly in it to win it is Godric, but Godric is so pathetic that he can't ever get a single victory. We see that with how his Liurnia campaign went after the whole going neutral from the Academy was. So, like, it's one of those things where I get why all the factions are in the position that they're in and why the war played out the way it did. It's just not as epic or interesting, because it's not like there's some. It's not like Melania or Mikola or Rykard or really Morgoth or no, Godfall was, right? Like, so really you have this idea where you have this entire council of factions where it breaks down and now they're all at war, and only half of them actually were invested in becoming the Elden Lord. The others, you got Mikola wanting to actually become a god, Melania's just doing whatever her brother wants, like there's not a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of family drama in this family drama. Yeah, okay, yeah, they're here too, so. It's official. I didn't check this one, I think, when we were looking last time. I love the color, you know. Oh boy, the way when I was talking about the burning corpses being tarnished as warriors, something that supports that is a lot of the corpses at the Jagged Peak are the burning kind. Oh, really? But couldn't that be because of dragons? And dragons like burning them? Would that necessarily be just because they're tarnished? Again, I love that idea that they are, Xavier. I'm just, you know, just something of concern I might have. Radahn stopped to try and give Godric payback first and fails, playing into Godric's ego, what caused him to pick a fight with Melania, then he gets clean. Oh, well, that's the thing. Radahn didn't even fight Godric. We have no evidence of them actually having conflict. I talked about this in my, I think it's in Radahn and Godric. Like, Godric, what happens with Godric and Radahn is literally, Radahn, like, Godric retreats, he goes to his castle, he sees Radahn's army is also retreating, he's scared that Radahn's coming for payback, so he hides in his castle, and Radahn basically just passes him by going straight to Redmane Castle. That's it. That's all we know actually happened. Nothing on a battle, no monument, no actual evidence of this. You know, let's be honest, if Radahn's supposed to be the strongest demigod, and he couldn't even take Godric's castle at Stormvale, then, like, at this point, like, there's really a problem with his title as the strongest demigod of the war. I can understand it during the second defense of Leyndell, and then, of course, during the battle with Melania and stuff. But then, if you try to add in that he lost to taking Godric's castle, then we got problems. So yeah, like, the reason why Godric attacks Melania is because Godric was arrogant enough to think, oh, I can take Melania. I just grafted myself. Because remember, Godric didn't graft yet. So, like, and Radahn basically is following right after Godric, so he hasn't had the time to graft by the time Radahn's coming in for this other battle. And that's why he's hiding his castle. It's when he becomes the grafted that he's like, oh yeah, I can totally take on Melania. I'm gonna fight now, and I'm gonna do so. And as I show off the doing so, he had this big surprise attack and everything. Like, everything was, as far as strategy was concerned, looking up for Godric. The problem is he couldn't deliver the goods. That's not the term, Night Scout. Night Scout. It's not that he insulted her. He's like, your mother's so fat. She's not my mother or something. Like, it wasn't anything like that, Night Scout. It's what he says was that what Kenneth says is that Godric scorned in terms of he made light of her. He didn't take her seriously. That's what the Japanese text is really saying. There wasn't any, I made a barb, and then Melania's like, okay, I guess I'm gonna turn around and whoop some ass. None of that happened. He just got cocky. That's really what it was. He got cocky, he got showed what's up, and then he ended up groveling beneath her. And that's what Kenneth's big complaint is. That Godric is all talk, no substance. He's a pathetic excuse compared to Godfrey, because well, we don't know much about what Godfrey would say when it came to combat or battle and any of that. He probably wasn't the most eloquent of speakers per se. Like, goodness me, he made sure he could back whatever he did say, right? If he says he's gonna take your castle, he's gonna take your castle. Do you find burning bodies in the base game where it makes sense they are burnt? I don't know, because I haven't checked for all the burnt bodies. I'm just open to the idea that, well, if there's a storm where there could be fire to justify it, it could happen. But I don't know how consistent that is, or if it applies in all cases, because I would assume it doesn't. There's a few places where I for one, wouldn't be like, okay, this body's burnt, like, I don't know. Which is why I'm open to your idea. He's a joke, that's the whole point of his character, for sure. He's meant to represent the decline of the golden lineage in the wake of Radagon. That's like what his character embodies. Doesn't necessarily mean it happened in the wake of Radagon per se, right? But the point is very clear that, you know, things haven't been going good for the lineage. His Great Rune becomes less useful the more powerful you are. That very much is true. Like, the ones the Walking Mausoleum should have also been players that got killed in the war, would have made the war seem more serious instead of what it was. Yeah, I agree. I think again, I would have liked if more demigods were involved in some way. Maybe they didn't necessarily have great runes, but they all had their own idea that, you know, they thought, like, you know, they could claim or something, or at the very least they're vassals to some of the parties involved, and they were like, there's just a lot that feels like wasted potential with what we got. Like, at most we have Forts Gale, Faroth, and Morn, which might have had houses attached to them. But again, like I said, maybe you could say Fort Faroth and Gale were lost with the Melania's battle, and that's why they're now replaced fully by Redmanes and stuff. And like, same thing maybe with Morn, with Godric moving in and stuff. Like, he threw out Morn because they maybe were not necessarily okay with Godric's Civil War or something like that, right? But the point is that, like, we don't really know about those characters or what transpired and stuff. And again, even if we did, those conflicts would be so minor compared to everything else in the war, it would be like a footnote. So I don't blame them for not telling us these stories either, because what we got isn't really that important. Also, Burning Corps are the only ones that will have weapon models by them. Oh, really? Is that so? That I didn't realize. I thought the weapon models thing was an independent factor. That's good to know, though. Godric is so weak, he actually literally to see other people staying. Godfrey still remembers the first time that guy pile tried. Yeah, I love Godric's character. Like I said before, I think in terms of design and characterization and, you know, just overall lore, him and Godofroy, I think, especially together, would be, like, probably one of my favorite parts of Elden Ring. Right? Definitely probably my favorite demigod. But yeah. I think he's probably one of the best ones placed in the narrative. Just the way they have him work, how early he shows up, how he represents the horrors, yet also the pathetic, you know, the feebleness of the demigods and the players in these wars and stuff, right? The problem is I feel like Godric set the expectations for what we would get in the wider conflict too high. So what we get is drastically watered down and stuff. Which is why you'll get people, like, questioning whether or not Martin was even involved at all in the story for Elden Ring, right? Because it doesn't have a lot of that, it doesn't have a lot of that upfront complex political stuff by the major play. Chat? How do I do this? How do I do this to myself? Please. Someone explain. The mausoleum in the Weeping Peninsula could have been a demigod that had the Kaiden working room that got killed by Godric after Radahn left Mary. That could have made him God. I mean, there could have been there are so many ideas you could have gone with it, right? And that's something that you talk about in the writing room and things like that. Like I said, I don't have a problem in and of itself with how the writing of The Shattering is. It's just it's a lot less than what it feels like when it's advertised or talked about. Going back to earlier talks of dragons breathing bodies, if I recall correctly, these brown dragons can't breathe fire, so it would have to be gray. Yeah, again, that could be a gameplay thing, but yeah, that's definitely true if we're talking about burning bodies. But I think Xavier wasn't talking about this area specifically. I think just about burning corpses in general. I believe Nardi's notes should specify when the corpses are burning. Yeah, I think at least some of her notes for some of the areas do. Has anyone heard from Nardi recently? I hope she's doing okay. I know stuff with New Orleans and things was happening around the time that she was going radio silent, so I imagine maybe that stuff happened with her person that could keep her busy, but I hope she's okay. Praying for her. So it'd have to be Grail, one layer difference between the Broodmother and the Bridge Boss. Oh yeah, the Bridge Boss is also a... The Bridge Boss is a little far, I think, though, for any corpses that we might fight, like in the lower regions, right? Yeah, I don't know. If it is the idea is that the burning corpses represent quote-unquote tarnish, I think that would be interesting. I just don't have an immediate, like, explanation for why that would be. Like, is the fire a product of gold? Like, it generates heat, and that causes them to be ember? Like, why would they do that? Is it to represent, like, their heroic soul? Like, it burns? Kind of like Radahn with his rune and stuff? I actually feel like Godric could have been, with his delusional amounts of faith, he could have been a physically weak boss, but an insanely strong incantation user. I don't feel like that was the idea for the character, though, especially if you're going with big, strong barbarian man who needs to, like the idea with Godric was that he was, wait, let me see it. Oh, I feel like Godric could have been, with his delusional amounts of, okay. Sorry, for a second I thought you were talking about Godfrey, and I was like, I don't think that would have worked, but no, with Godric, yeah, I could see that. If they didn't go the grafted route, I definitely think I could see it being the idea where he's someone who could be, like, super heavy on the incantations. Honestly, I would have liked it if he included incantations into his fighting moves. Even regardless of him being the grafted and all that stuff. I feel like that would have been cool. I think it would have been nice to see some offensive holy magic being used by him and stuff. Kind of like what we get with the Golden Scions. Yeah, for a second I was like, yeah, Godfrey would have been like completely threw me for a loop. Or warriors. Oh, yeah, if we expanded to just warriors in general, then at the very least, I could come up with an abstract, maybe, again, abstract, like, oh, you know, great warriors with, like, burning passion, you know, fiery passion for fighting, you know, that heroic spirit burns, and, you know, that type of thing. I could maybe sort of get behind that. Even if it's not, like, a deep lore reason, if it's just, you know, we just want to represent, like, that burning, powerful soul of the warriors or whatever, so we put them with weapons, and, we put these naked corpses with weapons, and, you know, embered appearance. I could go with that. If the burning corpses don't have to be tarnished, perhaps some of the ones strung up in Limgrave are former residents of Eohid after it was conquered. Again, the problem is that there. If we're talking about at least the Mistwood area, that's the area that literally has only one cross thing. All the others are elsewhere, so I'm skeptical of that. I would be skeptical. I think, yeah, again, the whole point is the tarnished hunts and everything like that, and what we see, and I think it. Considering that the crosses are limited to Limgrave, considering the context of Godric, beware of Godric and his forces and his tarnished hunts and his hunters and stuff like that, everything there points to, they're supposed to just be tarnished, that they're being strung up, so that way they are incapacitated, but they're not, you know, dead or whatever, and the idea is to just basically wait out their immortality, you know, and they'll eventually lose grace or any of that jazz, which is supposed to be the explanation for why we have other tarnished who, you know, can die, even though they, you know, they're supposed to be, you know, tarnished immortals, right? That's what we get with the NPCs. I think that's generally the idea with the others. They wait till they lose the immortality, then they'll drag him over to Godric so they can properly killed and, you know, harvested for their limbs. Godfrey should have not been. Godric was even the one who gets the kill. He just takes credit for it, keeping his character pathetic. Yeah. I think there's definitely a lot of potential there with exploring these demigods and stuff. And who knows, maybe Night Rain will expand on maybe smaller conflicts or incidents with all the demigods, like there'll be things referenced in passing that you can impose back on stuff we see in this base game. Whether or not they were originally planned or they came up with it for Night Rain or what have you, right? I think it would have been nice to get a bit more on, like, you know, just events that happened during the war. Godfrey should not have been grafted with anything, though. It makes no sense why he is... Oh, I think you meant, Godefroy. Yeah, Godefroy, you say. Should have not been grafted with anything, though. It makes no sense why he is what he is, and he pisses me off. Should have been a large, noble, expanded creature. I disagree. I think there's a lot to make what he is, based on what I've analyzed about him in my Godric thesis. I think Godefroy being grafted is fine, and I think makes, in fact, the most sense in terms of justifying Godric and him being the grafted as well later on, right? I think the biggest problem with Godefroy is that he's a lazy copy-paste of Godric. Again, I'm okay in concept with what they were going for, but I would have liked it that either A, you clarify that, you clarify Godric's relationship with Godefroy, like, let's say he's supposed to be his identical twin. At the very least say that, so you have a justification for why he looks exactly like Godric. And if he's instead supposed to be like his identical grandfather or granduncle or stuff, as I've talked about before, then then at the very least change up the model so he doesn't look exact, right? Like, at least pull a Niall and O'Neill situation where Niall has the, or I think it's Niall has the scars and O'Neill doesn't, or what have you. At least do something. The fact they just copy-pasted it and removed the phase 2, as if that, like, you know, it's like, oh wow, it's just phase 1 Godric. I think that was just really lame. Sorry, all these similar names are confusing. Oh, believe me, that was the same for me at the start. Especially with Moog and Morgott and all that stuff. Also, I was thinking, because I was trying to think of ways to justify Mesmer being a child of Ratigan, right? And I thought, okay, well, maybe if you go with, like, them being M names, right? Like, okay, you have Melania, you have, Mikola, you have Mesmer, you have, what's his face? Melina, right? Sorry, her face. Right? And I'm like, okay, so maybe you can justify be like, oh, they all have M names. Then I'm like, oh, wait, then Morgott and Moog exist. I'm pretty sure Morgott and Moog. We know they're golden lineage, so it's like, oh. So yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, nothing really crazy, I think. I want to go back to Snowfield. Actually, you know what I really want to go back to? Yeah, let's go back to Deep Root. I've said it would have been better to make his second phase infused with Erdtree Holy Magic, so storm attacks would have Golden Wind with Erdtree. Oh my god, that's such a good idea. Yeah, see, like, that's so cool, and that's so much more creative because it could show that Godfall had a lifetime of, like, you know, working with his limbs and the various powers that came from those limbs, and sort of integrating them into himself, and being able to use Holy Magic, and all. Oh my god, like, that is such a good idea. Also, frickin' Nicola butterflies! Do you think Zoraya's real name starting with Z implies she's not even truly descended from Rykard? I'll be honest, I never thought that she was descended from Rykard, if I'm being perfectly frank. At least not as far as, like, being, like... I mean, I guess you could say descended from Rykard in the sense that she's... Okay, there we go. I think descended from Rykard in the sense that after Rykard got eaten by the serpent, apparently the serpent gave birth to her. But that's all I think I can really justify. I don't know about any other kind of descent. Best we can do is the copy paste. Yeah, this is something we always have to keep in mind, is that copy paste can be useful in terms of lore because it lets you think more abstractly, right? You can think about general concepts and things and what something visually portrays and stuff like that. So from a lore perspective, it's not that damaging necessarily. It's just really lame from a gameplay and just, like, you know, a narrative perspective that you can't have something that's more tailor-made to fit the area, right? Because then there can be little oddities, especially, that would be like Xavier said, there could be a little bit more done with Godric if they put, like, a little bit more effort, but no, they just said, okay, we're gonna just copy paste the boss in his entirely and do nothing else. And that's just disappointing, I think. This is weird, but I think it would have been cool to have each Scion drop an item that affects holy damage or incantations. I would call it Holy Blood or something to drive home the diluted divinity. The problem is that Scions are so rare in the actual game, I don't think that would have been worthwhile. Like, maybe you could have added a few consumables from, like, random corpses to imply they are also Scions, but I don't know. No, Loki. Godoflaw does have a Phase 2. He just used the Phase 2 version of the Earthshaker move when he enters it. Wait. I must be misremembering, because I thought he had no Phase 2, but no, are you telling me that Earthshaker move is actually specifically for when he's at half health? And that's it? He just does it for the transition, and then he's just the same old otherwise? Are you telling me that's actually how that works? Ay, ay, ay. An exact copy does little bit for, I don't know if you mean little for me or actual, like, it does, like, actually, like, you know, that does a little bit for me. Like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to take that, Tyrone. If they were just similar, not exactly the same, then yes. Like you said, all he has to do was add scars and unique face to him. That, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, if you just put, like, the slightest bit of effort to change them up, it would have been cool, because otherwise, I do not blame people who are pissed off or confused by just seeing this character called Godoflaw, but he's clearly Godric, right? And that's the problem. If it has just a little bit of effort for it, From Software can avoid that stuff, and sometimes they do it, right? Like, I wish they did that more with the Leonine Misbegotten. I wish they had more of them use the great swords they're carrying and stuff, right? Because there's a lot of lore attached to, like, where a Leonine Misbegotten is with what greatsword. But then the only one, it seems like they had an idea with the Crusader, probably because it was going to be a more common enemy in Lane Dell or something, right? But then things changed, they just made it a boss in one of the caves, and that's it. They didn't do anything else with the others. And that's just kind of lame. No, there's a first phase and second phase version of the move. The second one has more quakes and an inconsistent rhythm. Wow. So much. Wow, so much effort put into it. Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't even know what the hell, like, what the significance of that would be. Like, I guess to highlight how he's closer to the source than Godric is, so he has a more powerful question mark version, I guess. The Crusader was the only one with the stats to use his weapon. Oh, that'd be so funny. That'd be so funny. It's like we're carrying around this big heavy sword, yet they somehow don't have the strength to actually wield it. Godfall has 0 unique moves. He just upgrades to Godric's Phase 2 Earthshaker without having to do the dragon grafting. Yeah, that's my problem, is that I'm trying to think of like a justification for it. I'm like, yeah, I guess the idea would have to be that, yeah, unlike Godric, he's closer to the source, so he can maybe do a stronger... Like, that's literally the only thing I can do to justify it. Again, it's really, really low effort. Godric's a distant descendant of America, yet still has the GRM thing in his name. That's why I wonder if Zorias is the Xenia. Yeah, oh, that there's 0 relation. That's funny. It could be. It could be that's the idea, is that Raya thinks herself as the daughter of Tanith and Rykard, but then that's not really the case, so then her full name is made Zoraya. I could see that. I could totally see that. You know what I wish also happened? Families. This is another problem with the Shattering. The idea of this large and complex clan, and Godric's basically the only example we have of it. Like Melania, Mikola, Radon, none of them have any known wives or kids. And it's like, why? They've been around for so long, they've been alive, they've had all this thing, and none of them thought, hey, you know what? I found someone who I'd love to settle down with. It would have been great if the daughters of Melania weren't literally just like aspects of her person or something that got left behind when she exploded with rot. She said she was told she was born of a lord. Yeah, she's supposed to be, yeah, I get the idea with the born of Rykard thing, but what I'm saying is that my impression was that she definitely was never supposed to be born of Rykard, right? Because, you know, the whole thing with her and, like, learning her heritage as a snake person coming from the serpent and stuff, right? So, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't, like, Rykard and Tanith, right? Because Tanith wasn't her mom, as she found out. But yeah, I get what you guys are saying. Is the idea is that that maybe the idea of her being called Raya, but her true name being Zoraya, is a foreshadowing of that. Much like how America's kids all having the GRM thing, right? And the thing is, I think that could work. Like I said, I feel like when you look at like the R's and the G's, you can at least make a case that, oh, if they're named Godric, Godwin, and if they're named with a G, then they're Godfrey's kids. If they're named with an R, then they're Renala's kids. And if they're named with an M, then they're Marika's kids. Not necessarily, or I guess you could also say the R is for Radigan, right? So Renala and or Radigan. Take your pick. But, and then the point with Marika is that they're not necessarily one or the other's kids. They're just Marika's kids or something like that, right? So again, that goes back to the idea of maybe the R is for Renala instead of Radigan. Then, oh, you know, if it's just an M name, then maybe it's because it's actually not a child Marika had with Godfrey, but with Radigan. But like I said, the whole Omen twins kind of throw a wrench into that entire notion. So my thoughts would have to be that I think the idea is probably just for name variation, and so they could keep with the GRM thing. They basically decided, okay, if it's a Godric kid, we will use a G. If it's a Radigan kid, we will use an R. But if it's, but otherwise we'll use an M name, for either or. Because, you know, we don't want them all to be, you know, conveniently named after one single letter. So I think the idea would probably be that, okay, we'll have a Melina, we'll have a Mesmer, we'll have a Morgoth, and we'll have a Moog. Yeah, was Godwin or whoever is Godric's father the only one who was able to get with someone? As I said before, I think that I know a lot of people like to think of Godwin as the firstborn. I said it before. I'm more of the opinion I think Godfall was the firstborn, and Godric is like his grandnephew or something, you know, some relation that lets him be still within, you know, viably a demigod, but he's a distant relation instead of being a direct descendant of Marika or anything like that, right? Like something that could be like, you know, he's from some branch family of a demigod, right? I think that would also explain at least the justification, because I'm probably telling myself, chat. Reason why I'm not as incensed about the whole copy-pasting of Godric and Godofroy is because I look like my grandfather, right? Or rather, I should say, I look like my great-grandfather. So I understand the idea that, like, you know, some generations pass and then someone who looks extremely similar to someone from the past generation shows up. I can buy that. But like I said, I would like a little bit more effort to differentiate the two. Like, give him a beard even. Just give him a beard, some scars, something. But anyway, so like with my personal experience in mind, that's kind of like where I land as far as the Godwyn, Godofroy, Godric thing is. I think the bigger problem with the golden lineage for me is, again, there's supposed to be all these demigods that are part of the golden lineage, and again, they're just nameless, faceless, well, literally faceless, demigods that were killed in Ronnie's plot, and that's basically all we get about them. I think Marta has said that the names aren't supposed to be his initials. Alright, I'll take his word for it. But I'm gonna press X to doubt. I'm just gonna say that right there. That's a mighty fine coincidence. Godofroy is the only one who had premarital sex. Yeah, we don't know anything about Godofroy's family or anything like that, too. Again, I just feel like a lot more... again, maybe this is in Martin's notes. Maybe there's all these unknown wives and children and stuff that don't get focused on, but they're all there. And, like, you have, like, a giant family tree that Martin's written out for all the demigods and all their lines and all the noble lines of the Lanedale capital or whatever, right? But, I don't know. I think Mesmer is probably the firstborn if the impalings at the mountaintops were by him. I don't think they were by him. I don't. I think it's just America. I don't think Mesmer has anything to do with the giants getting impaled on or crucified or whatever it is with the thorns. Personally. But yeah, if you want to make the argument that he's involved there, then yeah, you have a good case for saying that he's the firstborn. I just don't think any of the golden lineage were old enough to be a fighting age and stuff. I think we know who's in charge of the executions alongside Marika with, what's-her-face from the Guardians Garrison, Arganthe or whatever. Also, if Radigan was Marika's true first Elden Lord, so she could do the Secret Rite ritual, the Secret Rite scroll ritual. I'll be honest, the more I've looked at that scroll ritual and looked at the text and stuff, I'm thinking it's just something Nicola saying about him, he's speaking of himself, and it's not actually something that's precedented. Originally, I thought that scroll was something where it was like, oh, this has to be something that Nicola got from the archives, and he read it, and so he knew about it, and he, like, left a note or something about it, or whatever. But now I'm skeptical. I think it's literally just stored there because it's a message that Nicola sent, Mesmer, because they've clearly been in talks and stuff. Like, Mesmer, like, Nicola's the reason Mesmer knows that what a Tarnished is. He's the one that's apparently been filling Mesmer in and all that stuff that's been going on. It's probably plant magic, like with the Briars of Sin or like the Shadow Tree spells. Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe the idea that those things were made with magic, or at the very least, magic was heavily involved in their construction. Sure, I can believe that. I don't know though for sure though, because they look awfully, I don't know. There's like a little design thing to them on the crux, which makes me wonder if they could be, you know, somehow naturally made. Or at the very least, were naturally made, but maybe use supernatural materials that were produced. Maybe, I don't know. The results should have been in the game, if you ask me. Also, they literally had a good candidate for a father from Lania's Child with a noble painter, and then they just did nothing with it. I don't know about... I'd have to think more about the wandering artist guy. Yeah, I don't know about that. You also have Malay Murray. You know, the frickin' Melania simp or something. They could have made it where Melania married into House Murray or something like that. But, you know, nothing in the lore really suggests that to me. But yeah. Again, maybe Night Rain will give us more lore on stuff to fill that stuff in, but I would say I'm a little... I definitely feel like more could have been done. It's not that I have a problem with what we got for Elden Ring, it just feels like there's definitely wasted potential. I think Zero Right Scroll's graphic depicts his too aged. I wouldn't say that necessarily. Because it looks like it was made with the white tree bark. So the question would be, is that bark that came from Mesmer's camp, i.e. this is the paper that they have, at which point that could explain any quote-unquote aging? Or if it's not really aged, if it's just the look of the bark itself, right? Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Tyrone. I don't think there's anything in the game to really go with that, but yeah, there's... Again, there are you could say the same with Kenneth, you could say the same with so many characters that they could have, you know, somehow tied that in, right? Like, I find it hilarious that they had a character called Shaneheit, which represent the Erdtree nobles, then they cut him and his whole Morgoth plotline, and then they added Kennethheit, which, again, for those that don't know, Shaneheit means beautifulness, so Kennethheit means handsomeness, right? So, leave it to Miyazaki, his wonderful creativity with names. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I would have loved it if we got more on the nobility and like how like maybe they could be, how they're like maybe some affiliate house or something related to this person, and we could have met and talked to them more. I find it sad that they literally were like, nah, we're gonna only have one character represented. I would take 10 more Erdtree nobles from the various territories or lands, like a House Gale, a House Faroth, or whatever, right? Like, I would have loved to meet characters from there over any of the tarnished NPCs we meet. Like Dialos, like I said, I think Dialos is just kind of a weirdo. Cool armor and stuff. Just kind of, I think his whole thing is kind of just weird for me. I would have easily replaced him. I would have easily replaced Rodrika along with the entire Spirit Summon system, but that's for a story for another day. I would have easily replaced, I'd even replaced Nefeli. I just don't care about them as much as I care about learning more about the people and history of the Lands Between. My thing would be, it's definitely the same bark as the Sphere Incantations. I would have to do the comparison to look, but if that's true, that could also justify it. If it's something that's... Actually, you know what? If the idea is that that was something that Mikola sent to Mesmer before he entered the tower, while it was hidden in shadow and stuff, I could 100% believe that he picked up that paper. Maybe because he went in there before and he picked it out or something. I could totally believe that, actually. I actually felt bad for Mesmer. He knows he's been screwed over and his mission will never end, yet he clings to gold through not necessarily America herself. Well, I think the thing is that he's very much in denial, and I think his death really sort of shows that, how there's always been that dormant resentment into it, but it's a combination of guilt and the genuine wanting of a mother's affection have buried all of that. It's only when he finally dies to a tarnished, supposedly, you know, the people his mother has chosen to sort of replace, you know, them and their order and their family and the entire system of gold and the Elden Ring and all that stuff. Basically everything Mesmer's been fighting for. I think it's only when he finally dies to that he finally sort of fully embraces and acknowledges that America, you know what, you're just a piece of shit. Right? Poor mama's boy wants to believe his mother's still... Yeah, exactly, right? I think it's only... Again, I think this gets catalyzed by Mikola telling him about the Tarnished and stuff, which is why you have him where, you know, despite what my mother wishes, I'm going to kill you or whatever, right? Because, you know, you're like me. You are this disgrace to gold. So it's right, like he's coming up with justifications for why he's gonna do this thing, which his mother doesn't want, because he feels like his mother's betraying him, right? And again, as we see with Mesmer's thing, this is something that's happening throughout the entire Mesmer army, but they're in denial and don't want to believe that that's actually the truth. Alright, so looking around all this stuff, nothing's really caught my eye. I think it's only when he's about to die that Mesmer finally realizes it's finally time to confront those motion full at last he admits he's hate. Yeah, I think so. I think it's sort of there at the beginning of the fight with how he's doing so, but I agree, Night Scout. I think it's so been deeply buried, and it's something that's still like, I think it's something that's probably in Mesmer's psychology. He's still trying to come to grips with it. So he's sort of in a sort of denial that, like you said, once he gets killed by that thing, which is just like him, and yet somehow has received his mother's, you know, for lack of a better word, affection more than he has. I think that's where it finally, you know, he finally, yeah, he fully comes to grip and be like, you know what, this is all a crock. Curse you, America. Curse you and everything you stand for. Well, yeah, of course his rage is gonna peak when he's murdered. Right, like that's the entire point of the vengeful spirits, right? Like the entire idea of these vengeful spirits, these you know, these spirits full of anger and wrath and grudges and resentment, right? Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, of course that's where it peaks. That's the whole, you know, that's a deep-rooted Japanese concept of the supernatural. It's those feelings at death where they're probably the strongest and most likely to have a lasting consequence on you. I didn't realize it did. That got me. Yeah, he basically says to hell with it all by the end, for sure. Oh, have you gotten into the Baleful Shadow on this character? Yes, I have. We've gotten all the way to the Rot and stuff, because I never did Ronnie's quest on this character, so... unfortunately, we will not get Baleful Shadow on this one. It would probably have to be on one of the other two I've done. I don't know if I can still do Ronnie's quest on all of them, though, because I think I've rushed to Altus on both, and I don't remember when Ronnie's quest gets cut off. I think it's maybe when you kill Morgoth. Okay, yeah, we got that. Nothing really to add on the storytelling here. I'm trying to see if there's a justification to say that the destruction caused... Because here's my thought process, chat. I'm trying to come up with a shitty, you know, not other than like, oh, for science, or, for why the Nox closed their sluice gate here and allow the rot to fester. And my thought process is, the best I could think of is Estelle destroys the Eternal City, crashes down... causes some destruction while rushing through here, but doesn't care because it already has its false sky from that nameless Eternal City, so it's not going to focus here. Maybe you can even make it... Ooh, oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, okay, maybe you can make an argument for a repelled. It's rushing through here, it causes some destruction, it gets repelled that away, ends up going down this side route that leads it around to the lake, goes down here, and then they're like, oh, that's where it fled down, let's close the gate and try to flush it out with the rod. By the way, sorry if I missed it, was there a stream where you talked about the origin of Mesmer's flame? Just curious, since I think it was stated to be his and not the snake's. Well, he is the snake, or at the very least him and the snake are they are inexorably connected, right? Like, you cannot separate the two of them from each other, even if they're not... Like, again, this is getting into stuff like, two persons in one god, you know, like what we see with Radigan America and questions like that. So I don't want to get, like, too deep into the weeds there, but from my understanding and how he's described in items, he is, in fact, the snake. Like, him and the snake are at least considered synonymous. So at the very least, there's very little separation. Like, it's very hard to separate the two. You still get there without her quest. I just don't know if the shadow will still show. I don't think it will, because the shadow is supposed to come with Ronnie's little puppet thing, right? So it doesn't make sense for the shadow to show up if you don't have little puppet Ronnie. You only get little puppet Ronnie from her quest. All I know is we've gone through here before, and Baleful Shadow did not appear. Going back to the scroll, the thing looks really beaten up in the color tearing weather lights. Well, again, Night Scout. If Xavier's right, and it's the same stuff used for the Horn Scent used for the Spira, then that alone could justify the explanation, because then Mikola might be using paper that the Horn Scent have had sitting around since before the Crusade, which, again, would justify the aging and stuff. And again, if it's actually supposed to be like the same white bark of what we see on Altus and stuff, which again, maybe, I'd have to think about that one. That could also have its own implications. As far as, like, you know, Mikola coming from Lindell and stuff. It might be using old paper from there. But again, I'd want to do the comparison and see for myself if it's really aged, if there's really a comparison to be made between, you know, that bark and the incantations there. Like, I'd want to see it all. Yeah, my only problem I have with the idea if this is Estelle is that Estelle basically flew over here. It caused some destruction to these buildings down here. And then didn't cause any destruction on his way back out, right? Like, that'd be probably one of my only issues I'd have with my theory. If Mikola is leaving a message for Mesmer, I don't see why he wouldn't use a fresh skull at the system stores. Well, again, if he made it over by the Hornsen area and took Hornsen stuff, then yeah. If that was a message he made first, again, we don't know how it was delivered or sent. It could have been one of his servants, because we know someone's bringing Morgoth's Mohg's corpse and stuff, right, to him and things like that. Which again, I have a question now: if the Shadow Tree, if Mikola needs to get rid of his body, and that's how he's gonna slip in past Mesmer's shadow thing, how is he gonna bring Mohg's body with him and stuff like? Again, a lot of questions I have about how certain events play out exactly. But yeah, I can totally see it justified if it's not necessarily Mikola himself doing the delivery. If he just wrote the message, gave it to one of his brainwashed servants, and then they go over and deliver it for Mesmer. Why does this place have the most silver? You mean compared to, Nokron? Because Nokron has a bit of it too when you're in the actual city. Or do you mean the silver tiers? Are there some items in these runes that imply the Fallen Hawks might have affected this area? I don't know. I could be Fallen Hawks. Again, maybe that was something we found in a past stream and I've talked about, but I don't remember. Again, this is the problem, Chad, is that I have said and resaid things so many times, because there's so much other stuff in these games, or other things I'm focusing on, it's just not something I'm working on now, I forget. So again, feel free to remind me if there are these items and stuff. I do appreciate when you guys do that, because, oh boy. It's a silver tier husk. Not really informative. Does it have the goop? Which goop are we talking about? We got this stuff here. I think there's a magic grease and maybe a holy grease in these runes. Maybe a golden centipede somewhere too. Shield grease isn't that weird, because shield grease requires stuff you get from silver tiers, if I recall correctly. So finding shield grease underground isn't really that odd in and of itself, right? It just tells us someone's been down there and has been making collecting silver tier stuff for shield grease, and then I guess died, ironically. Holy grease and stuff. Yeah, that would then the centipedes. That would tell us that there's definitely been fundamentalists through here, which again, as I've said before, they've been through the entire underground, because apparently nobody knew how you're supposed to get to the Nameless Eternal City when the front of Lindell collapsed. Which, hey, I don't blame them. If my main road getting around my area suddenly, like, I don't know, got evaporated out of existence by like a laser beam or something, I would have no idea how to get around. I just use the same road every single time. Magic grease, not shield grease. Oh, okay, magic grease. Okay. Well, that would be a Karian connection, wouldn't it? Maybe if the idea is that the company of Fallen Hawk are aligned with Rodney, you can make that justification. There is a golden centipede here. Yeah, I remember the golden centipede because I've taken shots of it before. Wait. Huh. I did not know that. I did not know that that's how that worked. Alright. Nice, nice. I don't think these designs are important, but just in case we ever want to look at them in the future, you know? These, though, these I think you can make a better case for. This, I don't think it's the same, but it kind of reminds me of the meteorite thing you see in the towers. Again, From Software, please. At least try. Like, I love how they're like, oh no, we're gonna make sure they're buried in dirt here, and then they leave some of these guys just like, yeah. It's probably one of those things where it's like just slap them down. There we go. It's just their casual decoration, like lawn mows. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite little details that you find on little items in these games. Alright, I think that's it. I think you can make a case for getting that. Yeah, something like this I think is fair. There we go. Nox symbol of the rose. When I see the symbol of the divine beast, red clothes, it also holds the cloth attached to the giant head helmet. Oh, is that so? I love the Farum chest because it has the lion corpses on its corner. The Farum chest? As in from Farum Azula? Or like something else? I can't believe the door shut on me. I guess you could maybe argue that the buildings maybe were destroyed by the Noxus experiments. Like, maybe they tried to electrify, they tried putting lightning inside here, and then it caused things to blow up, you know, kind of like, you know, a mad scientist lab explosion type scenario. And that's why these guys with electricity are going around here. Because I actually am not entirely sure where the electricity comes from. If it's something where, like, they got it from an outside source, or they managed to reverse engineer a way to get actual electricity, you know? I guess you could also argue maybe it comes from Golden Order fundamentalists or something, like especially if the two fought. Maybe they captured and killed them all, and then used them to recreate true lightning using their gold, so it's not ice lightning, maybe. Oh, everyone's having a chill night. Yeah, I'm having a pretty chill night, Victor. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, where you get the Dragon Lord talisman or the Drake Hunter outfit. Oh, I'm gonna want to look at that. Maybe. I think electricity just for the Dragon Kid experience. Yeah, I can believe that. It's just my only issue with that is that because we don't see much in terms of Dragonkin in this area, I want to be open to other, possibilities. Obviously, we have the boss that's over there, and we have another one that's over in the Lake of Rod area, but I'm like, is it really that? Or is there something else going on? But yeah, I could totally, settle for, okay, yeah, they're just doing different experiments, they're trying to get to true lightning, and they managed to succeed with their silver tears. You definitely already have pictures of the chest? I do not remember it then. I'm gonna have to look through back at those pictures. Should be ice lightning. Yeah, I would agree. I think normally it would be ice lightning, but I think you can make an argument that the Nox have continued to experiment. Because the idea is supposed to be that the Dragonkin soldiers are probably one of the first things that the Nox actually invented after establishing their settlements down here and stuff, right? Like, they got, their revenge on Far Missoula and the dragons fresh in the mind. They're like, we can create our own dragons! And then the Dragonkin experiments came out, and they're like, these aren't really, that great. And then they eventually give up. They're like, you know what, I guess maybe... I think we're just gonna go back home to the stars. And then that's where their whole Night Lord thing started. So that's my perspective on that. So then, if that is so, then I can buy the idea that they're like, hey, let's revisit this lightning thing, and they kept experimenting, and then with Silver Tears and their mimicry ability and things, they were finally able to create true lightning. Honestly, it's a testament to these goddamn seeds. These things can get down anywhere. Truly, these things can end up anywhere. Here. We got the rats that the ants that they mind controlled. Whew. I don't want to go down there though. I really don't. But you also have a house all the way back here, right? Guess. I don't know. I'm not enthralled with that. Yeah, I think I like this one better. There we go. Nox must have been furious when Godwin single-handedly introduced dragon worship and lightning into his kingdom, and now there was a cast of lightning using things. I don't know how much the Nox actually knew about what was going on with Marika's kingdom. Like, I think maybe Lingdell knew. I mean, sorry, the Nameless Eternal City knew. Because they have, like, people that, yeah, they have Nox that are, like, going up to live and, like, convert to Lingdell. And obviously, Lingdell is, like, imposing a sort of hegemony over the Nameless Eternal City. At that point. So, I could maybe buy that they were, the Nameless Eternal City knew, but I don't know if they were passing that on to Noxtella or Nokron. Maybe they were herding the Silver Tears like sheep. I could buy that, yeah. Right, so the thing is, it's very clear, like, again, looking at, like, the wood and stuff we see here, that the river wasn't normally flowing like this, right? At the very least, it wasn't as expansive. We can see from the plants and stuff here in these ruins, right? Like, this has at least been a decent amount of time has passed. Not saying a whole lot, but, like, at least a decent amount of time is. Like, this isn't, like, something that, like, just happened, right? You got some priests and sorcerers kind of, you know, like, still going around, guarding the area. You got some snake serpents here, which is like, okay, you know, fine. I'm not exactly sure why they decided here specifically needed them, but maybe it was just for enemy variety. But, you know, I can imagine these things being, like, anywhere, really. So putting them here, not the craziest thing in the world, right? And then you got some of these silver tiers around here. There's obviously more when we go into the upper levels. Then the buildings on the ground completely disappear. We just have a little bit more of the silver tiers and the ant riders. I don't know if they're hurting them though. Like, to what end? Is it just because, oh, we want to just gather up together? Like, why in the water for a lot of these? Actually, not could the silver trees being made of metal make them better conduits for gravelstone lightning, but this earth tree sapling might have Nox runic gold to study and perfect it. Yeah, assuming that the silver tiers are in fact made of liquid gold, liquid metal. Sure, I can go with that, right? Because of, you know, the obvious Mercury reference, right? Like, it's obvious that they're supposed to be water silver, right? Mercury, right? So the idea of them being like a metal, I'm totally okay with. But yeah, assuming that's true, I can definitely see it being where they're like a good conductor. Though again, this would bring me the question of why would silver be a good conductor for gold? I don't know, just the vibe I get with the ant riders wandering around. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It's just I have questions. I'm trying to fully rationalize that in my brain. Yeah, more of these guys just kind of around. We got the whole grave thing that they are locked up in there with the puppets, if I recall. Oh, you can't just get up here either. Oh, yeah, you can. It just requires a ladder. Okay. Seems unnecessarily complicated. I think the funny part is how these things are open, and we still have coffins that manage to get through. Even though they're obviously not made for the purposes of gameplay, at least, open enough for us to get through. Also, I love the Nido symbols. I think I have shots of this already, but I forgot where I saw it, so let's get another one here. I love Grave Lord. Yay! I love him. So funny seeing that again. The lava ones at the forge can stab and throw spears like silver tears, so it's probably a living metal thing. Yeah, I could buy that for sure. Based on the name, they might also be literal silver. Well, yeah, I think that's the idea, is that they're not necessarily, you know, again, especially with Japanese and kanji, you can get away where you're using a term, like, Miyazaki's done this in the past, but you can get away with using a term where it's like, oh, it's white iron. Now, white iron, at least for in kanji, is an actual thing. I think in English it's called, like, mekizolite or something. I forget what it is. But, like, in the context of Dark Souls, obviously, white iron might be something completely different. It's not a real, maybe it might not be a real metal in Dark Souls. It's, like, just a metal, an iron that has been empowered with holiness, right? Same thing with what we have, like, with, you know, mercury being called water silver doesn't mean that's necessarily mercury as we are familiar with it. It could literally just be a liquid silver or some silver that's actually mixed with water. You know, like, yeah, it just depends on the author and the writer and how they want to, you know, play with their own language, right? Got these guys. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe, I think maybe an Estelle, repelling Estelle might be the best thing. Because then, okay, so here's the thing what we would have then. Estelle, oh, no, going up here. So Estelle destroys this Eternal City after getting summoned by the Eternal Darkness spell. Like, portal opens, they want to get sucked in. Instead, Estelle comes right out, destroys the city, takes the sky. Ooh, nice little crystal star things, right? If then, for whatever reason, decides, I'm just going to go down here. Woo, it flows down. Part of it breaks off, becomes a malformed star here. Part of it breaks off, and was going to form one here. But that happens after it went down this way. You know, I guess flies over the sluice gate, right? The destroys a little bit of the Nox stuff, but the Nox managed to repel it. I don't know, maybe they use some of their wonderful, ever useful silver tears or whatever. But basically Estelle's like, you know what, I already got all these stars, I don't need any more, I'm just gonna take the path of least resistance. Gets knocked back, heads down this way, leaves another one of itself here, right? And then heads out to the Lake of Rot. I guess, you know, knocks on Stellar, like, oh, hey, you know, we spotted, you know, giant fire thing. It's like, oh, that was the thing we repelled. Let's seal this place up and try to flush it down with rot, because it'll all, the rot will all flow down here eventually, and we can try to, you know, rot it out. That was a nice breakdown, thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Victor. Mercury fits rating experience, and the Nox are trying to replicate goals that do a different thing. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about alchemy, like, you know, I guess you could always argue thematically, like, you know, them trying to create gold out of other substances is always on the agenda, right? I definitely think it's justifiable. I forget what items in there are. I can't remember if it's anything important. I think it'd be worthwhile to compare the Nox to photos of people with silver poisoning. Unless these Nox are themselves silver tears, their skin color might indicate they're indeed working with silver. I think it's just prolonged. I think it's just having lived underground for so long is why they have the dark skin, right? I don't want to like. I don't think they're night folk or anything related to night folk. I think from all indications, what we have is basically the Nox create the Nox are banished underground or whatever, right? Their whole plan on getting revenge on the surface with their own dragon army falls through. They end up being like, okay, we just want to go home. Well, none of us know how to go home, so okay, well, I guess we'll experiment. And then eventually they settle for you know, creating silver as part of these experiments to understand, you know, the nature of the cosmos and crap, and, you know, all that stuff with crap. Because if I ever... No, that was the Ancient Dynasties. I'm sorry, my brain is forgetting things from, you know, from network test stuff. But anyway, but the point is that the Nox end up, like, working with silver, and they create Albinaurics. Now, first-gen Albinaurics, well... You know, they're cool and all, but they don't got working legs. Okay, second-gen Albinaurics. Okay, we got the legs, but now they can't speak. And they kind of look a little misshapen, you know? They're looking a little frumpy. Okay. So then they create silver tears. Ah, okay. Silver tears. This will work. Because then we can have the silver tears. Instead of us creating these rigid humans who are kind of, sort of, not really Night Lords. Right? They're all failures, and they're kind of stuck being failures. We create a silver tear, and the silver tear can just keep on mimicking and copying and imitating something over and over again until it gets it right? So we can keep on reiterating with them. Okay, so we'll just work with and create a bunch of silver tiers instead. Then Kaguya, comes around and they make the deal where, okay, we'll take all the silvers off, all your Albinorics off your hand. Nox are like, hey, these are old failed experiments. We don't care if these surface dwellers have them. Have at it, right? So that happens. It's the wing of Estelle. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense then, yeah. So it's definitely trying to tell us that Estelle 100% went through here. So basically you have them creating all the silver stuff there, and then, after the creation of silver tiers, you have some silver tiers who gain sentience, and they realize, hey, I don't want to be, little slave pet thing to Nox, so they flee to the surface. They end up blending in with humans using their mimicry abilities, and sometimes they'll copulate with those humans, and then they give birth to night folk. And then at least after enough generations, night folk will stop having silver blood, because, obviously as they continue to presumably copulate with other regular humans who have red blood, they will eventually lose some of that silver in their bodies, and they will become normal humans. It'd be funny, though, if they actually go with the mercury thing, and, like, all the mothers or whatever of night folk, all the wives of night folk end up, like, I don't know, like, getting, like, silver poisoning or some shit from the sex. But anyway, that's where I think all of that shakes out. And then, as we know, Karians, they study and they create their own Albinorics with the Albinoric archer ladies. God, I wonder what this is foreshadowing. Also, I wonder what this is foreshadowing. It can't be that there's a bunch of Erdtree roots that are infested with Godwin stuff down there that are going to jump out of the rot. The condition Giria can make people's skin look gray, though it usually has a bit of blue shade too. Again, I think when it comes to the Nox, I don't think they're trying to base on any realistic thing. I think the idea is simply they haven't been under the sun, no influence of the sun. Whatever the sun is, its power, where it comes from, or whatever. It's clearly the thing that gives people their various skin tones that we see manifest above ground, depending on how much sun you get. But at the very least, you get some. And I think those that have been living underground, surrounded by rock, with no sun, end up having a darker skin complexion, which kind of reminds me of Draconians, if I'm being honest. Like, it really does remind me of the Draconians. I want to get more shots of this, so... I can't remember if this guy comes from the ceiling every time, or if after the first time it's done, but I know we already have shots of a lot of this stuff, so... Oh, you're already down here. Okay, we already missed our chance. I must already have shots of this then. Or did he fall and I just didn't notice? No, because I went through here, yeah. We must have had him fall already, because then the fog wall wouldn't have showed up. I'm pretty sure it only shows up when the boss fight starts. Get the second phase too, Loki. So the one that does isolating? Okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that. Yeah. Also, forgive me, chat. I just cannot... I can't... Oh, wait. We don't want to turn off all sound. I cannot stand that music. That's my least favorite track in the game. It's used so much. Fun fact, Dragonkin don't take extra damage for anti-dragon attacks. Well, they are failures of dragons, I guess. Truly are failures. Cape Power's really neat. It is. Man, look at that low poly freaking spine. That thing ain't impressive. I do find all the roots kind of interesting. Like, I wonder if there's a specific lore reason why they have it, or if, like, the designer was just like, oh, cool, it'd be nice to add. It'd be cool to have some extra, like, little troll tree root things. Actually, that would be a neat idea. Imagine if they're actually not made with men, they're made with trolls who fled with the Nox underground, and that's why they stopped making them after a while, because they ran out of trolls. I don't know, that'd be a cool idea. Roots on the Dragon Soldier. I see the roots of the Erd Tree Great Shield. These were kidnapped tree sentinels. I don't think that. Again, I think the Erd Tree Sentinels come way after these guys are born. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like I said, personally, I think it reminds me more of the trolls. But again, it could just be the same principle for why trolls have the roots things, right? Because as far as I'm aware, giants don't. Yet the trolls definitely do. I think that includes the trolls who are No, but they also have their belly things removed, so it could just be Erd Tree influence from having, yeah. Could just be from America ripping out the Fell God. Alright. Alright, guys. We're gonna do this. I think we're gonna call it. I am not hitting this boy. Oh no. There we go. Alright, that's it. I'm not taking any more risks. I do not want to accidentally kill this guy. I think I already have shots of this, but just to be extra kosher. Nah. Man, getting that angle. All these is the extra rows of teeth like the wyverns. Oh, 1 second. That they do. Play it safe. yeah, I want to play it safe. I get to fighting him. I'm too strong and like 3-shot him. I think I've always ended up fighting. At least when I first encounter him, I always end up first encountering him. Generally, when I'm generally like, you know, on the early game part. So I'm definitely not used to seeing his health bar go down that fast. Divine Beasts have 2 sets of jaws as well, even the smaller heads worn by the Inereline warriors. I wonder if that's supposed to be symbolic, or if that's actually how, like, you know, space lions are like. Which, by the way, I find it hilarious how there's apparently space lions. I wonder if the experiments involve Dragon King in some form, since the associated weapons have an anti-dragon effect. It could also be that they had dragon scales or something, like Gravelstone, maybe. I don't remember if we can find any of that around the Eternal Cities, but maybe there could have been something like that that they took with them. There we go. Ah, no. There we go. Perfect. It's probably what gives them their lightning. Yeah, I have to imagine there has to be something that they're using in order to create ice lightning. That has to do with a combination of the stuff that's available here, right? Maybe with glintstone or something. And maybe some stuff they take from dragons. But because it's not like, you know, fully true dragons or whatever, maybe it's not enough lightning power infused in the scales or whatever it is. But something happens that would cause them to not produce it properly. Maybe because they mix it with silver or whatever as part of the transformation. Like, again, a lot of thoughts. It could also just be that they're reverse engineering, so because they're incomplete dragons, they have some of the effects of Gravelstone on weapons derived from their bodies. But again, they're not affected by those things themselves because they aren't actually at that level of being true dragons either. So they're like this weird in between monstrosity, right? All right. Anyway, point is, we have done. I think I'm far enough away for this. Yep. Okay. We are going to do this on 0.35. Alright, 0.35 speed. Here we go. 0.36. Close enough. I am not noticing any difference with the higher LOD, so we're going to do that. Take off the always stealth. Here we go. Kind of sort of blocking the fog wall. Oh. The lightning silver tiers literally drop Gravelstone as a unique drop compared to other silver tiers. Oh, really? Well, that explains where the lightning comes from for those silver tiers. So yeah, they are using actual Gravelstone. So the question would only be where they got the Gravelstone, and the most likely answer would be probably the same place they got the source for stuff for their... Okay, yeah, then they have to be reverse engineering lightning, and silver tiers ended up being more successful than Dragon King soldiers was, okay. I think they're replacing the model. I don't know, they're doing something. Yeah, it's got this weird see-through look to it. Oh, yeah, they're replacing the model because this is a model with big wings, right? So, I think that's what's happening. This is them, I think, fading it out. They're using the distraction of the actual thing. And it happens so fast at normal speed, you don't notice it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, look at the ice they get on them. That's interesting. I didn't realize that's an addition to the model. Fascinating. There we go. There we go. You know, Zuli, if this Dragon Soldier has separate models, or if the wings work like Moog's wings? I assume it's the same thing with Moog's wings, where they also switch out a model. They have double wings like Ancient Dragons? Yeah. There we go. There we go. You like get over here, buddy? Like, I'm not asking for much from you, buddy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I think my game may have crashed, chat. And we got shot, so it's good, but that's it's supposed to be unpaused. Before I do the stream, could you use the free key check of the dead commoners? The Lindell have the metal. Oh wait. All right, we have it back. I don't know why. I don't know why we have issues. Also, we have a. There we go. Alright, come on, man. Give me more lightning. That doesn't break? That doesn't break anything? Yep. I missed my chance, I think. These guys have sick designs in slow-mo you can really appreciate. Yeah, I definitely appreciate it more seeing it like this. Alright, we're getting far away. I want to see him. I want to see him throwing lightning at me. Oh. There we go. Alright, can you do the jumping attack now? Oh! Not that jump. Run, run, Forrest, run! He's a good shot. Looks like he's in pain. Yeah, I like it how even when he's in, like, his powered-up form, he still feels like this very broken, like, you know, battered, like, not properly put-together person. Oh, here we go. Is he gonna do it? No, not that one, asshole! Isn't it that they put the lightning into the ground to have it come back up again? Yeah. It could be like lightning stakes, like in Dark Souls 3 with the Firstborn and stuff. It's not that important. Could, because the idea with the lightning stake was that you would come in, and in order to really add the force need to pierce through a dragon's stone scale hide, you wanted to impale them, like, right there on the spot, similar to, like, with their Dragon Slayer spears and things, rather than just hurl the lightning from afar like Gwyn did in the cinematic. I could see the idea that, again, if they were designed to be like the Nox's answer to the Farum Azula dragons fighting for the Greater Will, then the idea of designing them to use lightning this way makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. Dragons definitely have powers we just don't see in game as well, namely King Farum Azula flow with. See, here's the thing. That's not that weird if you know Japanese, because in Japanese, a tornado literally means a whirling dragon. So when you get, in Dark Souls 3, when you get the Storm Drake, the Storm Dragons, or Storm Wyverns, what's the word? The sword weapon that you can get from its soul, from Nameless King's soul, and you use its skill, which is called Tornado, and all you do is you take the weapon and you spin around with it to do like a twirly twirl thing. And again, that's referencing the fact that you are a tornado, a whirling dragon. So the fact you see a lot of tornadoes in Farum Azula, with a bunch of dragons kind of just circling around, like, I'm like, that makes sense to me. It's just knowing the language, right? So I get that. So that's something where it's like, I'm not necessarily surprised when I see something like that. Pocky doesn't bother with that show. He just makes the spear and can also actually aim, but it takes him a while. Oh. The problem is he's like the wall. I just don't like the wall. Alright. Alright, come on, do the jump. No! No! Why? You started the fight doing it so well. And now you do this to me. What did I ever do to you? Godskins also do a whirling dragon. We don't talk about Godskins here. We don't talk about Balloon Boy. Though I guess you could argue with the Serpent connection, the Apostle one could actually work. Again, I would love to get the jumping move one. But if it just isn't meant to be. There we go. Yeah, it was supposed to definitely be based... Again, like I said before, I believe that based on everything we see here with how they fight, how they're designed, you know, where they're coming from as far as their relation to the Nox and stuff and their history, I feel they really were the Nox going, okay, we just got our ass kicked by a bunch of ancient dragons fighting for Far Missoula because we killed their two fingers, potentially using the corpse of their god. Potentially. Because of that, we want to have a revenge on the surface. We still hold high treason against the Greater Will. We're still clinging to our corpse dagger, right? That's what Nokron, you know, keeps as their secret treasure, right? That they give to their Night Lord, because again, everything with them revolves around getting is you know, betraying the Greater Will and all that stuff. And I think what happens is they're like, okay, if you have dragons, so will we, and we'll create our own dragons. But then their dragons really sucked, and they're like, okay, this isn't gonna work. You know what? Let's rely on a Night Lord instead, right? We'll accept this false night sky underground, but we will use it to experiment until we can find a way to get back to the stars under the banner of a Night Lord, and the Night Lord will wage war against the Greater Will, and all will be cool. Well, we don't actually know the raw materials that go into those wings. I don't want to know. What are you talking about? It's clearly just paper mache. No gods were harmed in the making of this. No gods were harmed in the making of this dragonkin. Or maybe hurting Metter. Yeah, maybe. Could have also been used to get Metter instead of the fingers. Could be the explanation for why she's broken, maybe. Either way, the point being, of course... Okay, he's just not going to do the jump attack. I'm going to try staying close to him and see if, like Night Scout says, he's going to do the jump away thing. But so far, I'm not having much in terms of hope. Oh! Nope. He just really likes that claw attack. No gods were hard is probably why he's considered failure. That's why I said it. Which dragon do you think they used as the gene donor? The one guarding Godwin? I think, again, because Godwin is so late in the timeline, and based on what we now know, if the Silver Tears are mixed with Gravelstone in order for them to have lightning powers, I think they probably just had pieces of dragon material they brought with them when they were going underground. Which, again, if so, would only add to their connection to Far Missoula way back then, right? But anyway, the point would be that I think that's what they used. They probably had some Gravelstone from dragons. They used it, mixed it with some people, mainly, you know, fellow Nox. It's amazing what you can do with a dodge roll. Oh. Let's see. The Dragon Killer just said at least the Magma Worms are in their fate. Yeah, I guess there's an argument that they're like the Albinorics, their entire existence was manufactured. They had no choice in their births. Whereas magma worms are a product of, you know, greed and gluttony and all that jazz. A little bit late. There was one frame where like it was actually. I don't really like this shot, if I'm being honest. Can't really, too much not being able to see what's actually going on. He did the move while you were talking. No, he didn't. He didn't do that lightning jump move. Did he? Am I crazy? So what you're saying is they were basically like, let's throw some silver tears and some gravel into a pot, put it into oven for a bit, boom, we got one of the boys. Yeah, that would be the idea. Now, if you want to... Now, alternatively, since it's specifically at Noxtella, and we have all the stuff from the Nameless Eternal City flowing down, you could make the argument that some of the gravelstone from What's-His-Face, Fortisax, flowed downriver, and they picked that up, and that's how they got the Lightning Silver Tear. So they did use Fortisax's actual body parts that kind of, you know, flaked off while he's, you know, sitting around protecting God. The problem is that Fortisax is, like, in Godwin's mind dimension and shit, so I don't know how much that tracks, you know? Like, that would be my big press X to doubt moment. Be like, does this actually make sense in context of how we find Fortisax? Which is why I think it's probably just the Nox already have it. Now, maybe if there's some spare Gravelstone items we can find in, like, Noctron or Nameless Eternal City or something, that could also affect my analysis of that. Oh. Oh! No. Yep. He did. Well, clearly. I thought I had paused everything, but clearly not, and I missed it. He probably wasn't always in Dream Dimension. That is true. You could always make the argument that he was sitting around, you know, just doing his own thing before going to Dream Dimension, I suppose. Here's the 180 version of the movie. It's the version where he jumps back and the version where he leaps away if you're behind him. Well, we want the one we did when we were seeing him first there with the... Alright, can we get a leap? Alright, come on. Oh! That is him stabbing into the ground, though. Ah, damn, did it too early. Should have waited a little longer. I'll clip it to show you later. Coolio. Ah! There we go. Perfect. There we go. Can you back up more to get his whole pose? Sure. Oh, this'll do. Nothing else really to get a shot of here. God, that arm must hurt. I do not envy his pose there. that's a good one. Alright. Alright, I think that's enough, Chad. I think that's enough. Alright, let's die. Last Night of Grace. Now let's look at the thing that Night Scout wanted me to look at. What'd you say? It was at Lanedell, the Dead Commoners? And then we're ending things. Maybe I could have gone to the Avenue. Oh well. And then I'm done. Yeah, I thought there's some really nice shots we got. If I ever talk about the Nox in the future, I'm gonna be happy to use those images. Again, big thanks to Otis for the camera mod. Truly the GOAT. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I died from this, unfortunately. It's very unfortunate, but I die, chat. I know, we all do. It's a terrible thing. Looks pretty normal. Just kind of hanging around their neck. Oh no, you're alive. Well, wait, I think you're alive. I'm pretty sure you're alive. You can survive the fall? Okay, cool. I was like, even for Elden Ring, I don't think I can, but apparently I do. We have like a really good... this is perfect. Well, does this answer your question, Night Scout? Got the same as the normal boys. Everyone who's conscripted into service to the Erd Tree wears one of these. I guess because they get to know that, hey, if you don't cooperate, we'll put you in the stocks. Elden Ring is the same death height as Dark Souls. They just made it so it takes more until you start taking damage. Oh, really? Is that so? That's cool to know. So it's exactly the same as Dark Souls. I thought it was larger. Coolio. Good to know. You're talking about the metal collar, though. Oh, you mean this thing. Okay, I get what you're trying to talk about then. But yeah, I don't see that on these guys, the hooded boys. Granted, I think that might be because of the model. I think it's the same thing with these guys. Thanks for the stream. See ya, Loki and Co. See ya, Victor. I'm going to be ending things now here. Let me just double check this real quick for my own knowledge. These guys should still be alive, right? Yeah, we got no collar on these guys. These guys don't have armor, though, either, so you could argue it's just armor. There we go. Alright. Alright. See you later, everybody. Great avenue. Oh, I don't know how the hell am I getting out of here? Oh, no, I can't get out of here. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. Yeah! Alright. See you guys later. Bye-bye.